Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Back again with another main image monthly. We've got the usual crew and we've got some additional people on the show. Wanu is joining us today. And of course, the brand owner that we're doing the optimization for. And as always, Sim does the commentary for this show. So I'm going to bring Sim on first. Welcome to the show, Sim.
Pleasure to be back.
You always pick the ASINs each month. Do you want to explain who's coming on today?
Yeah, so I have the pleasure of being quite well networked now, and a few of these events, obviously, there's a lot of the same faces. You get very friendly with people, but then we went to a mastermind event, and there was this new guy, Luke. Didn't know much about him. Seemed friendly enough, as you'll see here. He makes a very good first impression, but he just absolutely crushing it on TikTok. And at that point, this is going back about a year or so. That didn't really resonate with me how important that was. But now, the numbers these guys are doing, so they sell board games. It's like a party brand, I guess, like board games, that kind of thing. But the numbers these guys are doing is crazy, and the creativity and fun they have behind the scenes, which they document all really well on TikTok. Their TikTok's incredible. It's just been a pleasure to get to know the guy, and I wanted to get him on here to help him and see what he can do in a very, very competitive, tough niche with massive players. Obviously, he is bringing a lot of outside traffic in, and that's presumably where a lot of his sales are coming from. But as we've said with, say, Snooze Shade in the past, where they do a similar thing, they're a brand outside of Amazon, and Amazon's a little bit of a checkout for them as well. There are still improvements that you can make on Amazon to really push the click-through rate through with main image improvements.
Excellent. Let's bring Luke in. How are we doing, Luke?
I'm glad I was off screen for the intro because you had me blushing, Sim. It's really nice. No, it was really nice to meet you, obviously through the mastermind. And I wasn't involved in the Amazon community at all before a mastermind. It must have been maybe 8-9 months ago, and it's been incredible to get to know people in the space, and the learning has been next level for us. But as Sim said, we actually have a stationery brand, so mainly doing greeting cards and wrapping paper, that we started in 2016, selling on Amazon and wholesale. And in 2021, we started our tabletop party game brand that we're investing a lot into from a social perspective, as Sim mentioned. So really, the product is really well suited to promote it on social, just because it's people engaging with the product, having fun with the game, and we've kind of built up an understanding of how we believe we can push that through viral social content, and then that content's driving quite good numbers to Amazon.
Excellent. I'll start bringing in some of our residents and, of course, Wana, who's guesting today, to do some optimization work. So generally go through images and various different tests, customer objections, etc. So welcome back to the show, Dorian. It's been a while since we had you on. He was a resident and then he got busy with everything that he's doing. But he probably shouldn't need an introduction, but we'll give him an introduction anyway. A lot of you guys will know Ash Thompson. UK seller, went to 9 figures. He got out of the game a few years ago. He might still do a few bits and pieces, but he exited to an aggregator. And basically, I'll let Dorian pick up the story here, but you caught in with Ash early days back in Hackney, right? And you started to do all of these images. Is that correct, if memory serves me?
Yeah, since the first product, really. It was a fun journey, I remember doing first main images really in 2014, 13 maybe. I was charging 50 quid. I didn't know what was I doing. And then a few years later, a team of 300 people at launch every week. Yeah, I think we're here with Matt and Andri. It's going to be a very interesting case study, because it's going to be one of those that it seemed pretty easy, and we had a lot of confidence. There's a lot of testing also. So initial testing that turned into a hypothesis. We created the beautiful images, as you're going to see, and then everything was kind of turned upside down. But fine, we got into a really good result here. We were working as a team. And I'm really excited for this one, because it's going to show you the power of data and creativity together and working together. So I'm gonna hand the mic to Matt and Andri because they have all the data, and I was just helping with the creativity bit. So it's gonna be a good one. This one.
So we're talking the cross section between an art and science.
Yeah, your favorite, Danny.
Yeah. That's my favorite. All right. Before we do, I'm just going to quick bring Weiner up on the screen as well. Matt and Andre don't need an introduction. They're killing it right now. They've just been winning awards. They're all over the place, and they've got a very good product in terms of ProductPinion. Do you want to explain what you two are going to be coming up shortly in terms of this optimization?
Yeah, 100%. I'll start with our video testing part, which is qualitative testing, which gives you a rough idea of what people are looking for, why or why not they click, what matters to them, which then translated into some of the creatives we done with Dorian, and then I'll let Matt cover his part after.
Excellent. What you've got, Matt?
Yeah, totally. We'll talk about, I mean, the big thing here is, concept testing versus contextual testing. And we'll touch base on both, and we'll basically take you along the journey of how we did it and how we kept coming up with more options.
All right, let's get started. So who's going up first? Matt, is it you or Andre?
So we'll start with the qualitative testing, which is the most unfiltered way to collect any shopper feedback. And what we did for this specific case is we had 10 people shop on Amazon, essentially, answer our questions, and we were watching everything they were clicking on and why, and them answering the questions and looking at the listings. So these are the questions we asked, which is, how could this party game images be improved? Second one, what are the top 3 features and benefits that matter the most to you? And third one, why wouldn't someone buy this party game? And these are the people we actually interviewed. So specifically people interested in board games in this case. And let me actually share with you that video. I think instead of me talking, we'd rather hear the target audience.
Sorry, what? Hilarious, terrible, lip reading friends party game based on the headphone challenge TikTok. Wow, that's a lot of words. So definitely feel like it says the images. So let's just see. I guess it does look a little bit cluttered. There's a lot to take in on here. So I feel like if it was a little more simplistic, that would be helpful. Maybe even... yeah, there's just a lot of information to take in. I feel like adding an image maybe with the most important bullet points would be helpful so that they don't have to be maybe text overlay on these.
So it says winner best party game, but it doesn't say who it won the best party game from.
The actors, she looks a little dead-eyed there, but yeah, so I guess what I would focus on is how effective the headphones are relative to how much this product costs, which is only $25, and how good the prompts are. I think the prompts would be the main draw.
Okay, so I think the image could be a little brighter. The black is not really pulling me towards being interested in what the game is about. It doesn't say fun. It says, it's just giving dark. It's very dark. It's really repelling me away from it. The font explaining the hilarious headphone wearing terrible lip reading adult party game. I feel like that should be in a bright color as well, and the font should be way bigger to bring more attention to it. I don't like the mouth replacing the O. The headphones could be a different color
because it's just given very bland. It's given very bland.
And I think people just want to know right off the bat, within the first few seconds of looking at the box, what the game is about.
It looks fake. The image that showed up at first is a fake image. It looks like it's been photoshopped, heavily photoshopped, like the way the headphones look when they're like that shadow that's floating under the headphones.
And not really drawn to just the black and red pictures. It doesn't really seem as inviting. Granted, it might be attuned more for adults, which is what it is getting for, which is 17+. But for some reason, it's just, I don't find it appealing with the mouth or the headset. Although I guess it does make sense because it's a lip reading game. I just am not a big fan of the black as the primary color. But it's almost like I would rather this phrase be emphasized more, the hilarious headphone wearing, terrible lip reading party game, instead of the sorry what. And it seems isolating overall as a game. Again, I host large parties with my family of lots of different ages. This would be more attuned to somebody playing like college parties.
Okay, sorry what? At first I think about the kids game Sorry because I play that a lot with my son. So this looks like to be an adult game. The black background does make it a little bit difficult for someone to distinguish that is a pair of headphones because the headphones are black and the box is black.
I've seen this on TikTok actually. Assuming someone that has never seen this on TikTok, this may be a little confusing without the instructions.
because there's so much text to take in, it's hard to quickly understand how the game works and how to play it. You really have to read through things pretty carefully and focus, and that might deter people.
It just looks really fake and low quality, and it doesn't look like something that I would trust as being like a high quality product. So that's something that I would like to change the way it looks. I think it's better just to use real images instead of like heavily photoshopping the images like this, where it looks just like fake and unrealistic. It doesn't look like something that looks high quality or professional. So that's why I don't like it. It just doesn't seem like it's that high quality or that professional. It doesn't say where it won the party game award from. I could give myself an award. I could say I'm the smartest person in the world.
Yeah,
So
that's the main.
pretty brutal, but as we said before, right? This
That's
stuff
totally
is
fine.
key. I'll bring on Luke. I'll probably need to give him some psych meds to get over the abuse he just received. But
You said it was a shit sandwich. That just sounded like a shit.
yeah, but do you know what? The stuff like this, what you have to do is you just put it to the side and then you clip out through the noise. You'll pick out certain things. You go, yeah, I can fix this. I
Sure.
can fix that. But when you first hear it for the first time, I think that's why a lot of people object to do custom objections, because the torrent of abuse. It's like, imagine being that there isn't standard, is it, boys? That isn't a continuous barrage from all video reviews. They normally have 1 or 2 in 10, right?
Right. That's just they clip together a bunch of.
Yeah.
By the way, just so you know, I'm very happy getting feedback. I like negative feedback. It's the only, like, what's the point in hearing something's good? I want it to improve. So
Yeah.
Exactly.
So before we go to the next part of the presentation, let me bring in Sim to give some feedback. But yeah, you took it on the chin, Luke. That's fine. But that's how we get better, right? But it was almost like if ProductPinion was on Twitter. Do you see what I mean? Them cut together like that.
Sure.
But there's a lot of good information in there which you can adjust. And I find that those kind of videos tend to do and give the most gold, even if they're got the arsehole. You know, like when you're on Amazon, you get a bad review. Half the time is because they're having a shitty day. So they unload on you. Yeah. So they're just projecting, but there's some good information in there. Let me bring Sim in.
who are those people?
Would you want their address?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can answer that, Luke.
Yeah.
So we selected people who have interest in board games specifically, and I think the age demographics we didn't really narrow it down, but these people essentially get paid to be brutally honest, and they also have feedback loop where if they're not really helpful, they also get out of our system automatically. So these people are actually being compensated for giving you harsh feedback. Yeah.
Amazing.
So they get paid to be abusive, but you know, at the end of the day, everyone's earning. Sim, what's your feedback on that?
I actually, as the podcast goes on, I keep notes in the background, and one I had was literally, it's like Twitter had a voice. It's amazing. But yeah, I think there's some really interesting points that they raised. What we've got to cater for in the main image here is the traffic that's not coming from TikTok. So the ones that are going, oh, what is this game on Amazon? And that's, I think that's pretty clear here. The lady that knew what it was understood it straight away. The others were perhaps a bit confused from the offset. Obviously, like the colors and stuff, it's gonna be hard to change that. I don't know whether that's valid. We have to probably test that, poll that over more people. But yeah,
Just
I guess TikTok traffic
there's a reason we did that. It's like if Amazon determined that the product is childish, then it needs to be tested as a children's product. And so the black is typically a color that you go for. We had yellow headphones in there before, but we felt that there was too much of a risk that they'd consider it a children's product, which is why we kept it black and quite adult.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, I think in general with a product like this is that you can achieve like crazy amount of sales, but almost like TikTok traffic could be papering over cracks that you've got in your Amazon imagery. I'm not saying that's the case.
Yeah.
We don't know yet.
No, I feel that way. Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, that was even more brutal than normal, and they're normally quite brutal with the ProductPinion video people, but that was particularly harsh. So yeah, I guess we see how it goes from here.
Dorian, your thoughts on the video?
Yeah, I mean, we use ProductPinion videos all the time, and what guys just showed here is an excellent workflow to come up with hypotheses, right? Because a lot of times we know we need to improve something, but we need a starting point. But also, I just want to say, sometimes you have to things with, a bit of a grain of salt, because you get an odd one that's just kind of going crazy at you, like, I hate this, I hate this. But what you're really looking for are patterns. If someone's, let's say 2-3 people mention the same thing, the bell rings. So it's a perfect workflow for someone like us on the creative side now to come up with those hypotheses, come up with those ideas. So yeah,
absolutely. And I find that you guys probably do the same as you're going through stuff. Nonsense, bullshit. That's a good shit, talking shit, nonsense. You just kind of go through all of these. When you run the analysis after the video, you got the bullet points, right? So you can kind of go through. They've not looked at the listing. They don't know what they're talking about. But then you get to the gold, and that's where you just kind of separate yourself from the whole process and just take what's necessary and just forget about it, and move on. And I think after 2 and 3, because the whole point of this show is to get people to do more testing. After watching that, they might slightly be put off, but it thickens the skin, and it's a great way to get the best way to get feedback, because they're being brutally honest. Juana, what was your thoughts on that as well?
I think that the more feedback, the better. And we just listened to a couple of opinions, but ideally you should run more polls and therefore gather more data. And just like Dorian was saying, ideally you should pull the most, I would say, not necessarily like the bad ones, but also the good ones, and then kind of like put them into balance and try to understand like what are the key points which keep repeating over and over again, because people might be, biased on not liking black, for example. But if black comes over and over and over again, that might be an indicator. But you do need data relevance in order to make big changes like that, right?
Yeah, and I think going back to your point about the color, I find this common. You boys probably find it as well. So guys would give feedback on something, and the product's black, right? Black box, etc., and they go, I like this. It's classy, it's minimalistic, etc. And then ladies would say it needs more color, and that's why you've got to cater for the market and work out who your demographic is as well. Because it's quite common is that if someone is reviewing something, we did it with the Zule stuff that I did for the project last week. A lot of the times, the ladies in the video didn't like the Zule image because it was the main image is black, the packaging. But obviously it's multicolored. So, but then it comes down to when you segment, who is your target audience? And that's when you can decide, well, if I've got a ratio of 75% of men buying this product and they're all saying I like it with the black finish, and then you don't have a variation and ladies want it in a different color, then you make a decision. Do you generate a variation for the feminine market or not? And that's another thing to look at when you're reading through the data of these tests.
Yeah,
all right.
You're absolutely right, Danny. Sorry. Can I jump in here?
Absolutely.
Very often when we do these tests for specific clients, let's say, we have to rely on their brand analytics data to see what their actual demographics are, so that people we ask are as close to that as possible. Because you're absolutely right. Different people would react differently. We just need to please the people we want to sell to.
Should we get into the next part of the presentation and then we'll go again for the feedback?
Yeah, I'll just summarize what we kind of discussed here, which is the main objections we've heard from these 10 videos. So number 1 is the dark color, as you all noted. So it feels dull, uninviting, and unfestive to many people, so not as a party game necessarily. Objection number 2 that a lot of people commented on is it looks fake, like Photoshopped. This shades around the headphones and stuff, so overly Photoshopped, which leads to questioning the product quality, and people lose trust how good it is. And the third one a lot of people mentioned is it's too busy, too much information, complex instructions. They don't get it right away. Like, how do you actually play it? It's very unclear on the rules. So now that we have these objections, we're going to work on the actual concepts creation. I'll let Matt cover this part.
Yeah, so basically, we went through the qualitative to get some, and just to note that too, like we mentioned earlier as well, there was positive feedback as well, but for the sake of the clip, we kind of made it all the more juicy, kind of interesting parts. A lot of people were like, "Hey, this looks like fun. I want to give this a go." So, for starters, let's just see what we're actually working with. So this was the main image that is currently live. So a lot of good things are happening here, right? So it's not just the box. We see the headphones, we see the cards, and we see this winner best party game 2024. So, you know, on a level, like, it is already, it's a good main image, right? And then concept A, and maybe Dorian can talk about this one a bit, because this was his concept that he first came up. But main idea here was, you know, showing off the headphones and actually show the game, like show how it actually works right away.
So yeah, so we basically got some concepts based on this qualitative research, and just throwing ideas at Matt here to test. What we did, because we didn't have the sample of the product, so we just quickly created a render at a slightly different angle. I wanted to see if we focus a bit more on the headset itself. Maybe this will trigger some interest, right? So the headset is at a slightly different angle. It kind of pops out of the screen, and then the other concept here that we had in mind is, can we show in the image how the game works? So on the right hand side, you know, it says morning shuffle, and above the headphones, you got the little funny quote which says, "What horny waffle?" So that's just the concept, and maybe Matt will show how it turned out.
So then we also thought, well, we wanted to do multiple concepts, right? So for the second concept, we were thinking like, hey, can we push it even further? So could we do something with, like, you know, Gillette's really popular for doing this, like the open box, maybe add some color on the inside. Like, understandably, a lot of the qualitative feedback was, hey, it's a black box, that sort of thing. But, you know, for the purposes, we didn't want to have to reinvent the whole box for this. So could we play with some packaging? Could we add some sort of human element as well too? Could we actually see people kind of happy and laughing, that sort of thing? We actually came up with some decent mock-ups with the AI eye candy feature here. Just put women laughing in there. We got some fun faces. Could we add more social proof? So yes, TikTok was in the title, but could we actually add that to the main image as well, so that the people who know about it get it right away and would be that much more likely to dive in? So concept B was this, where basically we've had everything all in the above kind of thrown in there. Dorian, if you wanted to touch base on some of that.
I think the main thing that here we wanted to play with is removing as much as possible of the black background and trying something a bit more bright. That's hence why we opened the packaging and put the yellow background. I'm not sure if the packaging looks like this in real life, but that's a very well-known strategy that, you know, a lot of sellers use out there, just like Matt showed the Gillette example. The other thing is, you know, the little badges as seen on TikTok, winner of best party game. Really wanted to highlight it again, and we wanted to add a little bit of a human element. Hence why you see this girl laughing there. And, you know, when I sent this image to Matt and Andrew, they're like, yes, that's the one. It's a pretty cool image, but I'm maybe hand this over to Matt to show you guys how amazingly this ProductPinion test turned out.
Okay, so then we got some concepts, so let's put them through through testing. So here we're going to do basically the original versus our concept A versus our concept B. And which one do you guys think won, for those that are on the panel real quick? Is it the original? Is it A, which is kind of like the safe bet? And then B, which was the kind of crazy, like everything, throw everything at the wall at it. Which, and like what Dorian had said too, we very, very I was very confident B is the one, right? Like, it breaks up the black, it's good to go.
I think this might be a loaded question, so I'm going to go with the original. But I do like a lot of what you changed, but I might go with the original. I think having the sorry what at the size that it is there is doing something. That's like my hypothesis on that one.
Right on.
I feel like the headphones don't look so good in A and B. Like, but that's obviously a render, so maybe that could be part of the reason why. But I think A could look pretty good. I think it's hard to communicate the gameplay, but maybe A.
I think the original might have won just because it's more forward and cleaner, and also the headset looks weird, right? So that's why I'm choosing the original. Let's see.
And I won't ask the ProductPinion boys or Dorian because they know the answer. So, do you want to do the big reveal, Matt?
Yeah, let's do it. So, and we also kind of alluded to this too, but yeah, so the original won, but not only did it win, it kind of like really won by a big significant margin. We were hoping for at least, something close, and then it's still worth further testing, but it was pretty clear in this case that we failed. The original won by a significant margin. So, you know what? That's part of testing. We got to go back to the drawing board and figure things out. And some of the reasons were the other ones, they couldn't understand right away it was a board game or not. They also really liked the call out. So the best party game, even though we saw in the video, that one guy was super skeptical, it got noticed. Like he noticed that right away and he couldn't get it out of his head. He mentioned it multiple times. And just a lot of people talking about the gold star, the badge, the authenticity of the badge, winning best party game. So it was like, okay, all these people are talking about this best party game badge. Maybe we got to make this a little bit more stronger and put a bigger emphasis. So let's make a really nice big gold badge. So again, threw up in Variationizer to get a gold badge there. And for concept C, basically took what we had before, but we have this open box. And it's interesting because not a lot of people, you guys hit off the bat, like, oh, the headphones look weird, but not a lot of people mentioned the headphones, but that's a really good point as well. But in this case, we're thinking like, hey, let's make that, remove the TikTok thing because nobody seemed to care about that. Put the big winner best party game on there. And then also we changed the cards back to like holding them in the hand because people did mention they like seeing how they were in someone's hand, that sort of thing. It made it a little bit more real. So now we do another concept test. So we have the original, we have A, and we have C again. Similar question I want to ask real quick. Which one do we think won in this scenario?
I'm going to go original and C, very close, and A is lagging behind now.
I think C might have improved, but I think that the original still wins, right?
You know what? Using the feedback that the guy who really didn't like it used, where he said original feels fake. If you compare original and C, I feel like C feels more fake than original. So I would also say original still.
Yes. So with a big significant margin, the original is still winning, which of course, disappointing. We failed again, and they won by a significant margin. Okay, so back to the drawing board. Then we actually took a look at like some of the competition, or at least some of the other, board games, and we're kind of getting a feel for what's going on, like what's causing this to happen. And some people did mention but the open box, like that strategy works a lot, but in this particular category, it feels like if you're a game, you're pretty much a box. That's like people's expectations. So let's keep the familiar box, but let's also find out what's important to people when they're buying a game. So we ran a survey called Pinion Ask and basically just asked, what's the most important features of a party game? And it turns out, how easy it is to play, how many players, and how long does it take to play kind of came on top, which makes sense. But let's take that information and actually put it towards one of the concepts. I think in this one, this was Dorian. Yeah, Dorian, maybe you want to speak to this one where we kept the box and there was more of a focus on the headphones.
Sometimes instead of jumping straight to creating crazy iterations of your current main image, you can start by simply just changing a few things on, if it works, maybe we can enhance it somehow. So by looking at the data that Matt provided me here from those tests where original was winning and everyone was kind of mentioning the gold badge, the best party game, I just thought, let me just see how we can simplify and enhance the current main image. Just pull all the elements that people really like and just simplify it. that was it. That was just keep the original content simplified and just enhance it slightly.
Yeah, so that was concept D, very close to the original, but just kind of rearranged a bit. And then kind of went a little bit crazy for concept E. But the main thing here was, okay, people said they wanted to know it was easy, how many players, how much time it would take to play. So we just highlighted that right on the box there and kept that really big best party game badge kind of as a standout. So let's do it again. So the original versus new concept D and concept E, which do we think won? Sim, take it away.
I think E might be closer to the original, like in terms of percentage now.
I agree. I don't know if D feels simplified to me. I think it's the same, just maybe moved in different places. E, I think it touches on those points which you mentioned were important from Pinion. So I think that'd be quite interesting to see. So I reckon it could be. Sorry, just one more point on E. It feels a bit more. It feels less. Again, like maybe less real because it's not representative of what the product actually is potentially.
I'm going to go for E purely down to the dramatic change in comparison to the others because there seemed to be more of a move around, even though there were better images. So I'm going to put my hat on E and get it wrong. Juana?
I like what you guys did on the box. I think it's very eye-catchy. However, the way that they might be displayed at the moment might look a bit too Photoshop, like too fake, just like they said. So that's why I do not go with it, despite the fact that I love the box itself. Yeah, so I'm in between original and D at the moment. Let's say D. Let's see how that goes in this case. I'm moving away from the original finally.
Cool. Yes. Nice. All right. So, hey, we have some success. And it's so version B1, the one that has the new box with the concepts written on there, and it won by a really nice margin as well too, like even bigger than the other times around. So. One thing that was super important when we were doing this testing is we've actually excluded everyone who's done one of these tests before. We actually removed them from the new test because if you don't do that, people have a bias, obviously, and they might just pick the same one that they picked before because they've seen it. So just keep in mind that's super important when doing this kind of concept testing. So we finally got that winning box. We did throw it into some contextual testing. So with contextual testing, we basically take your competitors, throw it up there and see what happens because the click-through rate success is relative. So even if your image is super beautiful, if your competitors have a better or more interesting image, then you're not going to necessarily move the needle on it. So, and also obviously price and title and the star rating will change people's opinions as well too. This is what the search simulation kind of looks like. So these were just some that we cherry picked based on, you know, what brands were bidding, doing some brand bidding on our Story What game. And we, for this one in particular, we actually did do a UK audience, I think it was, and we pulled the ASINs from the UK. And just a quick look. So with search simulation, you can kind of change anything that you need to change, which is pretty cool. And first we did a baseline test to kind of see where we were kind of presenting. I didn't realize this herd mentality game is such a huge, it's a well-known brand. It's almost like going up against like a Sony or Nike or whatever it might be. But in any case, when we did implement the new concept winner, it didn't really move the needle. So still hovering around the 11-12% mark for it. So what this means is, you know, it's not very conclusive in the sense of how it would perform with the competitors out there. Still maybe worth some more testing to see if we can move up that percentage. And just some other ideas that kind of came up. Like this one really I almost bought this one when I saw that quote, right? The best party game ever created by Tech Radar. So we were thinking about like, is there like a really heavy hitter quote we could put on the packaging that might be able to get people to be like instant buy just based on that, because that's super strong. People also really like the pink cow, even though it looks photoshopped and rendered and whatever. People are really attracted to this pink cow. It kind of made a point, I guess, in the search results to kind of get your eyes attracted to. Other ideas to change the callouts. So this was done in Variationizer. So like if there's other callouts we could do that. Change the text here, potentially. I mean, these are more subtle changes that you might want to look at later down the road. Add people to the box, maybe add people laughing. Everyone reacts to people typically well, especially people did notice when we had the other tests. Some people did choose when we had that woman with the headphones on. People were chose that option because the person was on there, and I think that. Yeah, and that was basically it in terms of some of the ideas that we had for it. Obviously, maybe the colors, maybe change up the headphones and box as well too. But that was where we were at with it.
Sim, do you want to give your feedback?
Yeah, so I think that there's things that obviously that weren't on the final image that could be. Obviously, Matt's just alluded to that at the end. I actually think the quote is a great idea, and I'm sure there are many that Luke has. In fact, like while this was filming, I was looking at that confident game, the one that actually polled worse in your poll, and it had a quote. We were playing that all Christmas, and actually the game looked quite fun. I've texted my wife, you know, can you buy this for Christmas Eve? So the quote literally got me. I was just thinking, why did I buy that game? It's because of the quote. So yeah, something like that would be great. I think the award badge is working because it's defining the game as a party game. But I think, Luke, is that? I mean, is the award real? Is it something that's come from a reputable source? Not that I have any objections against that.
We actually took out the source because it was from a UK Games Expo, which is quite UK focused, and it was the winner at that expo of the party game for 2024. But we just removed where it was from. Maybe adding in UKGE is useful, but I don't know how many people know it. I feel like utilizing the best party game of 2024 is probably more useful.
I just think, right now that badge is working because it has party game in it and it's got a winner, obviously, but a bit more like actual, some reputation behind the source would be great. I don't know how you pull that off. And as you say, it's not going to resonate with the US audience as well.
It's like a really niche gamer community, whereas this is like a mass product, you know?
Yeah, I understand. Yeah. But obviously the addition of the call outs on the box, so how many people can play it, that's obviously made a big difference and was sort of pivotal, I think, to that one winning the poll. Great job. That herd mentality, that the main image is fantastic. It almost looks like it's made of plasticine. You just want to squeeze it. There's something about that render is really good. It's a tough game to really get across what it is, I think, in the main image alone, which is why TikTok is so good, because it's a demonstrable product and people playing it and guessing incorrectly, maybe a funny guess. I'm sure that's most of your TikToks on that, Luke. That's going to drive a lot of interest and a lot of traffic back to your listing. But obviously it's really hard to do in the main image.
Dorian, give us your feedback on, you went for a series of tests there, right? And a lot of them didn't hit the nail until the end. So what would you advise for people that are testing and they're not finding the pocket with it? So would you say that it's something that, if you're not getting results from a similar style changes, is going to go more dramatic, or what's the process that your team goes through?
I think here you had examples of both, where we started with really dramatic changes. And at the end, what we realized is that it could be as simple as, adding a couple of callouts, focusing. Like after 2 tests, we knew that the original actually does a really great job. And we have this in our agency. We have this all the time when someone comes to us with a main image and asks us to optimize it, and then halfway through the project, it turns out that actually that's a pretty good main image. Something works. And it's not always about visuals. I mean, we love visually striking main images. There's a lot going on, 3D renders, exploding packaging, all of that. And then it turns out that people actually don't, what they're looking at is mostly clarity and something that, catches their attentions, a focus point. So here we didn't have a fully conclusive test. I think we got some real good understanding of what people are looking for and what works. And in my opinion, is just those two things: clarity of understanding what the product is, and a focal point, something funny, right? And as Matt said, in the board games category, the packaging itself is so important. So I think there, look, you have a lot of opportunity to, try new things in terms of communication. How do you communicate? How do you catch that attention? It could be a quote. It could be like maybe create a puppet, some sort of a puppet. I don't know. But there's a lot of ideas here, I think, that, could push this a little bit further.
I think the important part, and something, Luke, you talked about, that UKGE, which is the source of the award, might help, maybe in a smaller size, just so people who are questioning how legit the claims are on Amazon would have that answer, even if they have no idea what it is. They may be like, oh, that's an actual source. Now I trust it, right? Kind of built for that trust. But another thing, I tested on many different products, specifically with the brands I'm in charge of wearing beauty. More often than not, it's like 90%, I would say, if you have award winning in the beginning of the title, that leads to higher click-through rate. So another thing we can try here is maybe split test, even directly on Amazon, award winner in the very beginning of the title, which people may be like, oh, this one's actually legit. It won some kind of awards. I'm not going to go wrong if I buy this as a gift. And now, speaking of gifts, the reason I think the original kept winning is the packaging was very prominent. And from my experience with my own brand that I sold in 2020, all the products were giftable. If it's a giftable product, you have to show the packaging, because more often than not, people who buy are not the actual users. They just have to feel good about handing that gift to someone and seeing their initial reaction. So I think stressing on the packaging is critically important in this giftable situation. And another point, we talked about the quote. If you do have a quote that you could use, I think making it funny or hilarious could help too, because this is all about laughing and having a good time. So if the quote kind of translates into what to expect in terms of how people would feel using this product, that may actually be a big moving needle as well.
And so that is something to
5 cents.
Yeah, and I think you need to test that as well, because we live in a woke society. Some things are going to be funny and not PC, even when they are, but people get sensitive, right? So that might be some stuff that you would need to test in terms of not killing your conversion rate or losing half your audience who would buy your product as well. So
Amazon themselves can get sensitive as well with what you've got on there.
Yeah, no, indeed. Yeah. Luke, I know you're going to shoot off soon, so we're going to bring in Wana and then we'll wrap the show. So before you jump off, we can get your final comments as well. But Wana,
awesome.
Do you want to take it away and share your screen?
What I wanted to understand is, because as always, we have two sides when it comes to Amazon, right? It's the customers, and thank God we have, ProductPinion, who you can test and get shoppers' opinions. It always comes down to understanding what your target audience wants. But at the same time, you also need to understand that when your product hits the search, it's not always the customers, but first you need to worry about how Amazon reads and understands your product, right? So as a best practice, I would always suggest that you do a really quick testing in recognition. I had only the original image, but I think it would be worth doing the test on both right after you have, before you go and test it like an A/B test on the Seller Central, and you have your own data. In our case, the new edited box. Run both and try to understand how Amazon recognizes it. I did this on the original on the original image, and what I found out was that it picks up electronics and the headphones, which is okay. But then it says something like business cards, paper text. It recognizes this is an advertisement, so it's like, okay, we are, an advertising. I think that mostly is due to the label with best party game. However, what I was thinking about, if we were to tweak the image in any way, I would play around with party game or adult party game. And the reason is because we do have game as a label in AWS. So we would be able to get it on the box and utilize that. So it is recognizable. Of course, that would be the fastest way, unless you want to create a custom label and get it to be recognized specifically, like adult party game or something around those lines, and create the label specifically for you, but you might go into a rabbit hole. Very quick, I would add that here. And the same in the cards. Try to add game on it, even if it's really small, so the system can pick it. Therefore, your labels would not be business cards recognized by Amazon. But yeah, I would definitely run both of them. Make sure that game shows up on the image and it is being picked up by the system itself. In this case, it might be easier on the newly edited image. I hope so, but yeah, as a best practice, this would be very, very quick. I know, Andri, you told me that also ProductPinion has this. So it might be even easier after you do the A/B testing to just run both of them and understand how it gets picked and the labels.
So Luke, what's your feedback on this in terms of what Juana just presented to you?
I feel like I think adding game to the cards and to the adult party game to the box to give it some more context that it's a game rather than business cards or electronics is obviously going to be useful. I think what I need to balance now is all of the feedback that I've been given, not just that bit. So it's like you don't want to put too much on the box, but I think like a quote looks like a good idea, and then maybe the quote could include games. So maybe trying to do all of those things and bringing it together rather than doing loads of different things and making it too busy. But I think the whole thing has been incredibly insightful and helpful.
Sim, do you want to do some final takeaways here before we wrap the show?
So there's something that Zule do, whether they do it all the time or just in Q4, but they do put a bow on the box as well. I know I'm just adding another thing to add to this main image, but stuff like that might give you a bit of color and a little bit more going on. But I think the quote could be a big difference. But again, you just don't know until you test it and poll it and all this stuff, and that's why the process that these guys use is so important. And I guess it's just a question for Dorian now: is how often does he get it right first go? How many iterations does it normally take? Is it often the first try that works, or does it?
It can take from two to 3 to 5 usually, I would say. When you build some confidence, then you have to move to manage experiments. That's also really, really important. Okay, so that's your the next step, and run it at least for a couple of weeks to see if the data is going in the right direction. But again, looking back on what the games that people really liked with the little cow, there's one thing that really works there, and that's clarity, and just a clarity and something that catches attention. So I think, look, if you just you'll be guided by this, because we tried so many things, so many crazy things, and they didn't work. And that's
a great point. So it's like it's clarity, which is this is what it is, this is who it's for, and maybe a quote which is this is why it's good for you, sort of vibe, right?
Yeah. So work with those two, come up with different hypotheses, ideas, poll them, and then run manage experiments. And I think you're going to be fine. And there's definitely room for improvement there.
I hope you enjoyed that today, Luke, and got a lot of information to take away. If sellers and other people want to reach out to you and connect, what's the best way to connect with you?
Best way is probably on LinkedIn, Luke T. Shelley, or over email, luke@luckyegg.co.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us today. I hope that we'd like to get the guests back, or the brand owners back in the future, to see what happens after the test runs and see if it's moved the needle for you. But thank you for being a good sport. I know there was some heavy feedback in there, but it's all part of the job. We take bullets around here as well.
Yeah, okay, so a few things. One, Luke's brand is on TikTok. Their handle is @LuckyEgg. I highly recommend anyone looking, like e-commerce owner looking to do more on TikTok and do a better job at all things, branded content. You should definitely check those guys out. It's extremely high quality, and they churn it out as well. They've done a phenomenal job. And yeah, also I just had another question for Dorian, if you don't mind me asking. But in terms of manager experiments, obviously that sort of monitors like conversions and stuff like this. Is it not the case with a TikTok heavy brand that if a TikTok went viral, you're going to get very high converting traffic in at a certain point, and that could maybe sway manager experiments a little bit, rather than a brand that has none of that coming in and it's a bit cleaner? Yeah,
that's true. When you have outside traffic coming in, which is hot traffic, and they know exactly what they're looking for, it's not. It might skew the data in a slightly different direction. So it's really important that you run it for as long as possible. I think in case, like in terms of Luke's brand, I'll run it for at least 6 weeks to be 100% certain. And it's going to give you statistical significance. It's a very smart tool, but it just might take a bit longer, I think.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's all I had, Danny.
Best way that someone can reach you?
Yeah, LinkedIn. Sim Mahon on LinkedIn is the best way.
Excellent. And Juana, best way people can reach you?
LinkedIn as well, as always. That's the best.
Excellent. And of course, Dorian?
Everyone's on LinkedIn, man. LinkedIn, Dorian Gorski.
Cool. And Matt?
Yeah, starting to post more content on LinkedIn there, so you can reach me there, or easy matt@ProductPinion.com.
So I'm going to sign off. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love. And I'll see you back here again next week.